moving too slowly, but the point of Omani is galvanize the Iraqi government. So with the additional step I ordered last month, we're speeding up training of ISIL forces, including volunteers from Sunni tribes in Anbar province. We're speeding up training of ISIL forces. We're speeding up training of ISIL forces. We're speeding up training of ISIL forces. Thank you, Eric.
ISIL, Daesh, ISIS e ISIL son la misma cosa. Y ya para terminar, un video de Noam Chomsky, que es donde resume realmente todo lo que hemos dicho acá en la... Acá. Noam Chomsky, terminamos ya. Miren todas las verdades que habla ahí. Es clave, es clave. Una voz respetada de Estados Unidos. Noam Chomsky. Bueno, había más cosas, pero una cita te digo así para improvisadas, para tratar de llegarla.
What can you tell us about ISIS and what are its origins?
Well, actually, there's an interesting article that just appeared a couple of days ago by a highly qualified analyst, Graham Fuller, CIA background, one of the leading intelligence and mainstream analysts of the Middle East. And the title is "The United States Created ISIS." This is one of the conspiracy theories, thousands of them that go around the Middle East, but this is another source. This is right at the heart of the U.S. establishment. Now, he hastens to point out that he doesn't mean the United States decided to put ISIS into existence and then funded it. His point is, and I think it's accurate, that the United States created the background out of which ISIS grew and developed. Part of it was just the standard sledgehammer approach. Smash up what you don't like. In 2003, the United States and Britain invaded Iraq, major crime. Just this afternoon, the British Parliament they granted the government the authority to bomb Iraq again. The invasion was devastating to Iraq. Iraq had already been virtually destroyed, first of all, by the decade-long war with Iran, in which, incidentally, Iraq was backed by the United States, and then the decade of sanctions, which were described, they were described as genocidal by the respected international diplomats who administered them, and both resigned in protest for that reason. They devastated the civilian society, they strengthened the dictator, compelled the population to rely on him for survival. It's probably the reason he wasn't sent on the path of a whole stream of other dictators who were overthrown. Finally, the U.S. just decided to attack the country. 2003, the attack, it's compared by many Iraqis to the Mongol invasions of 1,000 years earlier. Very destructive, not hundreds of thousands of people killed, millions of refugees, millions of other displaced persons, the destruction of the archaeological richness and wealth of the country back to Sumeria. And one of the effects of the invasion was immediately to institute sectarian divisions. Part of the brilliance of the invasion force, its director, Paul Bremer, was to separate the sects, Sunni, Shia, or separate them from one another, set them at each other's throats. Within a couple of years, there was a major sectarian conflict incited by the invasion, very brutal. You can see it if you say, look at Baghdad. If you take a map of Baghdad, say in 2002, it's a mixed city. Sunni and Shia are living in the same neighborhoods. They're intermarried. In fact, sometimes they said they didn't know who was Sunni and who was Shia. It's like knowing whether your friends are in one Protestant group or another Protestant group. There are differences, but it was not hostile. In fact, for a couple of years, both sides were saying there'll never be Sunni-Shia conflicts. We're too intermingled, and the nature of our lives, we're with it, and so on. And by 2006, it was a raging war. Out of that conflict then was spread to the whole region. By now, the whole region is being torn apart by Sunni-Shia conflicts. And out of such conflicts, the natural dynamics of them, of a conflict like that, is the most extreme elements begin to take over. And they had roots. Their roots are in the major U.S. ally, Saudi Arabia. That's been the major U.S. ally in the region as long as the U.S. has been seriously involved there. In fact, since the foundation of the Saudi state, it's kind of a family dictatorship, as you know. The reason is it has a huge amount of oil. Britain, before the United States, had all typically preferred radical Islamism to secular nationalism. And when the U.S. took over, it essentially took the same stand. Radical Islam, which is centered in Saudi Arabia, it's the most extremist radical Islamic state in the world. It makes Iran look like a tolerant, modern country by comparison. But and of course, the secular parts of the Middle East, of the Arab Middle East, even more so. But it was it's not only directed by an extremist version of Islam, the Wahhabi Salafi version, but it's also a missionary state. So it used its huge resources, oil resources, to promulgate these doctrines throughout the region, establishes schools, mosques, clerics, and so on, all over the place, from Pakistan to Africa, North Africa. And an extremist version of Saudi extremism is the doctrine that was picked up by ISIS. So it grew out of, ideologically, the most extremist form of Islam, the Saudi Wahhabi version, and the conflicts that were engendered by the U.S. sledgehammer that smashed up Iraq and has now spread everywhere. And that's what Fuller means. And Saudi Arabia not only provides the ideological core that led to the ISIS radical extremism, but it also funds them. Not the Saudi government, but wealthy Saudis, wealthy Kuwaitis, and others provide the funding and the ideological support for these jihadi groups that are springing all over the place. There are other. This attack on the region by the United States and Britain is the source of where this thing originates. That's what Fuller meant by saying the United States created ISIS. You can be pretty confident that as conflicts develop, they'll become more, if the more extremist, the more brutal, the harshest groups will take over. That's what happens when violence becomes the means of interaction. It's almost automatic. It's true in neighborhoods. It's true in international affairs. The dynamics are perfectly evident, and that's what's happening. That's where ISIS comes from. If they manage to destroy ISIS, they'll have something more extreme.
Con una ficha queda todo dicho. No, muy seria, ¿no?
Oye, Wilson, ¿y Israel qué está jugando en eso? ¿No oye que
Israel está jugando
calladito ahí, uno no oye ahí nada?
Ellos están buscando desconectar a Estados Unidos porque Estados Unidos está muy amigo con Irán. Irán ganó fuerza como líder dentro de la región porque pudo hacer una negociación muy ventajosa con el tema nuclear.
Sí.
Y ganó mucha fuerza realmente. Entonces ellos son el sostén también de Assad. Y Irak lo que hace es, son minoritarios en la región desde el punto de vista religioso, pero han tratado de ganarse esa zona de Siria porque le permite con eso, teniendo a Siria, pueden llevarle armas a través de Siria a Hezbollah en Líbano. Es que ahí donde está toda la geopolítica.
Bueno, pero Israel no está participando.
No, Israel le compra petróleo a ISIS.
¿Sí?
Sí, claro, le compra petróleo a ISIS. E Israel ha bombardeado en Siria, pero bombardeado básicamente, eso es lo que ellos dicen, los convoyes de armas que van para Hezbollah. Eso es lo que ellos están haciendo actualmente.
No.
Pero, es decir, hay problemas, pueden inclusive, es que en este momento el tema del Medio Oriente puede ser para la Tercera Guerra Mundial, aunque Papa ya dice que es la Tercera Guerra Mundial en pedacitos, ¿no? Pero realmente Estados Unidos, mire, Estados Unidos está muy quieto porque el armamento que ha mostrado Rusia en estos momentos, que nunca lo había divulgado, le produjo escozor a los Estados Unidos. Tiene en estos momentos el submarino más potente que se ha conocido en la historia de la tecnología. Y desde el mar Caspio hubo barcos que dispararon al Estado Islámico 16 misiles en un minuto. Eso es un aparato que ellos tienen, los Estados Unidos no lo tienen. Claro, un lanzador de misiles, pero enorme, grandísimo. Y entonces, por tiempo, pero hay un video donde Putin acusa directamente a los Estados Unidos de ser los financiadores del Estado Islámico. Yo lo tengo ahí, si es por tiempo, yo los pongo y nos vamos ya. Ya estamos dormidos, bueno, listo.
Nos llegan los
Realmente
misiles.
eso fue una cosa que hice así improvisada porque tengo ahí otras cosas para mostrar, pero
A la próxima.
Lástima.
muy bueno, muchas gracias.
Pues solo te